Okay.
Hello.
Hey guys. I didn't actually announce that I was going to be live, and I want to make sure. Do we feel like we're both in the film?
Yes, I'll try to
Open.
scoot in a little.
I decided to go live. This is only my third time live on here, and we literally decided this a second ago.
Yeah, last time we did it in this space, people had trouble hearing, so we've squished ourselves.
Yeah, we're like up close. Yeah. So hopefully you can hear us. I do see a couple people on. So hi guys. I wanted to jump on and introduce you to Emily Motskis. Did I say it right?
Perfect.
She and I we met actually through Rachel Jensen, who a lot of you know with the Gen Magic course that I've done. Rachel and Emily have been doing work on Urge. And Emily and I have been colleagues now for a while, just working on our own stuff. And we have recently connected to work deeper on shadow contracts. So you guys know that I've been talking a lot about shadow contracts. And I feel like they're really the crux of getting out of lack. We have to dissolve our shadow contracts to get out of lack. And Emily has taken shadow contracts to the next level.
Because I had a lot of them.
So I kind of introduced the topic to her, and then she ran with it, and then has taught me a lot about them. And we thought we would actually do a workshop on shadow contracts. So that's coming up at the first weekend in December, and we thought we would jump on and do a live and share with you guys 5 ways that shadow contracts keep us, what did we say, in lack and in anxiety. So this kind of came about as we were preparing for the workshop. But I just wanted to say what you guys are saying. Hi, so excited. Hi. Hey, Julia. Hey, Kimberly. Hey, Chantel.
Woo.
Yay, people are popping on. Hi, Faye, Lorraine.
It says there's 27.
Aria. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot of you. Not all of the names are popping up, but all right, sweet. So 5 ways that shadow contracts keep us in lack and anxiety. So for those of you who haven't followed at all well, first of all, let me introduce Emily a little bit more. Hello. Emily, why don't you explain a little bit what you do outside of weird stuff with me and Rachel?
So my name's Emily Motskis. I have a little poetry business called Poem, Spiritual Poetics, but I think I might be making a name change to New Earth Poetics. And essentially, my biggest passion in life had been art and poetry and beauty and desire. And so I kind of swirled all these things together, and I teach people how to live a poetic life and how to live a creative, artistic life. And you could find me on Instagram at poem_and_the_poetess. And that's how you could get to know me. You could link to learn more about me from there. That's a good place.
And I've said this before, but you should check out her TED Talk that she did. If you just Google Emily Motskis and TED Talk, it'll come up. But it's called Living Life
from the Soul, Poetry's Path to Your Fullest Life.
Highest Self or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's great. I've mentioned it several times because that TED Talk really opened up a ton for me in terms of understanding how to live more from abundance, more from the heart, more from sovereignty. So Emily's actually a great person to co-create with because she gets this from the perspective of a poet, which just to me takes it a whole new level. So yeah, let's dive in. These are the things that both Emily and I, as we talk through this, 5 main ways that shadow contracts keep us in lack and in anxiety. So the first thing I just wanted to say for those of you who, if you haven't heard me talk about shadow contracts, which I doubt, but shadow contracts are basically the fine print that we have in our dynamics with lack. So shadow contracts are essentially any beliefs that we have in lack and the dynamics we play out in them, and they're usually relational. So they stem from the belief that we're not enough, there's not enough, and therefore we have to sacrifice. And so the shadow contracts are the way we play out that sacrifice, the relational dynamics of sacrifice, and it's based on reward and punishment. So it's why I've talked a lot about the difference between lack and abundance, and how when we shift our core beliefs from lack, which there's not enough, we're not enough, to abundance, which is there's enough. How did you say it? There's enough, I'm enough,
you're enough, and there's enough.
Yeah. So the whole concept of the dissolving shadow contracts are dissolving the cords that we have that keep our creative energy fueling lack and fueling that, which is essentially an illusion.
It's more vampiric, it's sucking from you rather than you being able to cycle and build more and more creativity as you go.
Exactly.
This is it's stealing all of your energy, so you're depleted and, like we're saying, anxious and feeling in lack.
And it's ultimately, I think it's one of the shadow contracts keep us out of connection with our true creative desires and our impulsive,
Yes,
our creative impulses, and anything that's generative that will bring more life to us. So, number one, do you want to just go back and forth, or let's just jump in and talk about them as we go?
You can say each one of them, and then I'll
We'll
add.
dive in.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So one of the number one ways that shadow contracts keep us in lack and in anxiety is it hides us from our true self, our true frequency, and therefore our true magic and our true power.
Yeah.
So you dive into that a little bit first, because she came up with that one first, and I was like, yep.
Okay, so through the process of dissolving my shadow contracts I kind of did this systematically. Like, I wrote down a list of every single person I had a shadow contract with. If I could identify what the shadow contract was, I did. And me and Amanda will be taking you all through a process for how to identify your shadow contracts, how to discover what the underlying frequency shadows are that are actually linking together. But essentially, I did all this work, and so I knew what I had in front of me to take care of and to clean up energetically. And when I finally ended up completing my shadow contracts and becoming sovereign, I became a whole different person. Like, just honestly, a person that I could have never even imagined. There was no part of me that could have foreseen, predicted the new reality that I stepped into. It was it was almost a reinvention. Like, I literally became a new person. And so when I said this, it hides your real self from you, I really do feel that ultimately at the end of the day, my shadow contracts were keeping my most sacred, most creative, most empowered, most beautiful, poetic self hidden from me. Like, I just couldn't even see who that girl was who lived in abundance, truthfully.
Yeah.
And I could have never imagined sort of the transformation that would occur.
Yeah. And I think that how we said it keeps you from your true frequency. There's something about when we are truly in touch with our creative desire or creative urge, that it's regenerative. You guys have heard me say this before, and you've probably heard Rachel say it too. It's just that urge itself has the ability to sustain you completely. And we get out of touch with that when we're wrapped up in shadow contracts, because we're no longer making decisions from what we truly want or desire or what our creative impulses are. We're making decisions from the reward punishment systems, the decisions like, is this right or wrong, good or bad? Therefore, am I going to win or am I going to lose? Am I going to be in trouble or am I going to be rewarded? Which always changes. And so when we live by that model, we're always looking to the outside world to tell us what to do. And that gets us out of alignment with our true frequency, which our true, like, most, what's the word I'm looking for? Unique signature,
like
or energy signature.
Energy signature, a vibrational signature.
Yeah,
Resonance.
that's us when we're just in the belief of abundance, that the belief that we're enough, that there's enough, and that you're enough. You're enough, I'm enough, there's enough.
Well, I'm just thinking of this on the spot, but even the power of that signature, like, say you have an energy and it's siphoning off all these lack because you have all these shadow contracts. So what's being diminished is the power of your resonance. Like,
exactly.
It's like small.
Your signal.
So when I said, like, I didn't even know what my real resonance contained. It was like I became more empowered, and I realized, like, how strong I was of a frequency.
And I would say the same for me when I started dissolving my shadow contracts, which is how I even started teaching about the abundance. I didn't start teaching about the abundance matrix specifically until I dissolved one of my final shadow contracts, which I didn't even realize I had shadow contracts. I didn't even know what they were. But I with a close friend of mine in the empath narcissist dynamic, when I finally was able to see what the root of that relationship was, I was able to get my sovereignty back. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, all these dynamics that are holding this relationship together are completely based in lack. And we're a perfect match for each other. in these lack beliefs. And so the same thing happened for me when I dissolved that shadow contract. I started getting a whole new resonance to teach from, and started really understanding, I think for the first time, what sovereignty was, that I didn't have to get my worth or I didn't have to look outside of me for my indications of what to do. I didn't have to, it wasn't an outside thing anymore. And that was huge.
We could go to that one since you just said it.
Oh yeah, we did kind of skip, huh?
Well, it's okay.
Which one is that one?
I have it as it keeps you searching for everything outside yourself,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like something's out there that you need to get, achieve, do, so you can then receive the validation or the knowing that you are worth if there's limited bananas in the jungle, if there's 29 monkeys and only 11 bananas, then that's lack, right? We're all fighting for what we think is a limited supply.
Yeah.
And so Amanda really changed my life, but just her teachings of then I have to prove that I'm the best so I can receive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's searching for it outside of yourself. What you're trying to receive ultimately is outside of yourself when you're in lack.
Yeah. And I put in that is that it makes solutions elusive. Isn't that the same one, basically?
Yes.
I think it is. Yeah, I just worded it differently. It makes solutions elusive because rather than, if we're in the reward punishment system, the lack matrix, which is all this or that, it's duality, it makes us unaware of all the other possibilities. So instead of being like, oh, there's only 11 bananas, but hey, look, there's coconuts and there's this and there's this kale over here or whatever, we just focus on the bananas. So it makes, when we are in lack, we're always looking at this and that. There's sacrifices always required. There's not enough. So if we have that as the core belief, it keeps us from even considering other options. So solutions are always elusive, creative solutions. We don't think creatively when we don't believe there's other potential options available.
Which is a perfect segue to
Yes.
limits possibility and therefore limits creativity.
Yeah, so that would be number 3. Limits possibility and therefore limits creativity.
And the reason, that's one of the main reasons it keeps you in an anxious cycle. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I had trouble getting the words out, but this part really leads to anxiety because whenever your possibilities feel limited, you feel anxious because it's like how you start to worry, right? That's worry. How will I get my needs met?
Yep.
How will I be able to survive? This comes back to the survival mode, Amanda, but if your survival is being threatened, then you immediately go into that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And if you enter fight, flight, or freeze, then you're living from a place of limited possibility. Mm-hmm. And so instead of being able to use your desire and your creativity and your essence and your brilliance to move towards things that would be a vibrational match to your true signature, your signature is totally dimmed. So you have to start playing in oppression or these systems, these oppressive systems. And we'll talk more about that, one of them later. Which is just the simple system of having to trade your money for time.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you stop being your own creative source, your own creator being, and you become everybody else's genie.
Yes.
And try to do all their creations for them instead of, it's not that we want to be service to self first and think of it in that selfish way. We want to think of it more like a cup. Like if our cup isn't full to the brim and we're not literally nourished from the inside out, then the overflow is where we really start to give to others. But that true gift of ours, we can never give it if our cup's always empty.
Yeah, if we don't get full. And I think that's one of the biggest steps to dissolving shadow contracts, which I've said before, which is including yourself in the equation. And that, I think that leads really perfect into number 4, which is trading time for money. Like, trading time for money is one of the ways that we keep ourselves in shadow contracts and in lack, which keeps us in anxiety. And I think that, what were you just saying? I totally lost my train of thought. What did you say right before that?
Working for everyone else, being there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not including yourself in the equation.
And being enslaved ultimately, right? Like,
yeah.
For anybody who's worked I know my sister, she works in a huge national law corporate office. And she literally just is a little cog in that giant wheel. And it's a feeling of true enslavement.
And she's a lawyer, isn't she?
Yeah,
She actually
she's- yeah.
practices law. Yeah. So oppressive systems in general are based on lack. And where I think the core level they're based on lack is because they're servicing the lack matrix. They're not including the whole equation. So when we come from an abundant mindset, it's including us, others, and the planet. It's including our body, our mind, and our hearts. You know, we include all that we are. You guys have heard me say this so many times. As long as we're sacrificing one of those aspects, we're in lack. And when we're trading time for money, it's not to say it's ultimately wrong or anything, but it really undermines our value as a whole. And I think that when we dissolve shadow contracts, even just simply getting back in touch with our creative impulses shows you that there's all these other ways. I know that came to me as like, there are so many other ways I can make money than I even realized when I was doing the 9 to 5 thing. And I would have never, just like you said, you couldn't have imagined what you're doing. I would have never imagined that I'd be doing what I am doing now, fully supporting myself, not working for anyone else. And I'm still learning abundance. But what I have learned more than anything is that trading time for money is completely based in lack when you start to understand that money is truly limitless and endless.
Yeah, and also just the hierarchical sort of oppression of that. It's like we literally start to put a value on our beingness. But this is the part that the poet in me has a problem with, because it starts to make you feel like, I experienced this is a little bit of what my TED Talk is about, but just how I had this feeling of worthlessness as a poetry professor. Like I wasn't valued at what someone like in direct comparison for me is with my sister, right? I was a little jealous that what she had chosen to do was valued so highly in society for such a higher amount of money. And so that just started me questioning, well, value, what is value? And of course, poetic value is the value that actually fills the cup up from the inside, our ability to make meaning. But ultimately, we're all valuable. Like it's a synarchy, not a hierarchy. And so I think even having the creative thought or possibility or solution that you could live in a synarchical society rather than a hierarchical society, you have to enter the abundance matrix to even have a thought like that.
Yep, it's true. And again, like when you get in touch with your creative impulses and you start to act on them, they take you on unexpected roads. And the reason why it's so important to know what your personal, and it's so unique and so personal, because your life stories and experiences have made you perfect and valuable in a very specific way. And if we don't know ourselves, and if we don't take the time to actually go within, as Emily said, and get our cup filled from within, we don't ever even we can't even access our creative impulses that lead directly to our own personal abundance.
And right now is like the perfect time in the whole world to go within, or even find a little piece of your day where you can do that, because with COVID and with lockdown and with, just being more, I don't know, there's less options.
Yeah, more limited.
We're more limited, but in a way that gives us more possibility for how we could discover what's inside ourselves. And I would say that this whole world event and, forced me to go inside. And that's really when I started doing all this deep work and cleaning up my shadow contracts and ultimately realizing the kind of capacity of my spiritual gifts. So really it's hijacking our spiritual gifts.
Yeah. When we were creating our slides for the shadow contract workshop that we're doing, we really had the image of like when you're in a shadow contract with someone else, you have like cords of energy attached to them, and it's vampiric in nature, and you can literally manipulate each other through those cords, through fear, guilt, and shame. That's how the reward punishment system works. So we cannot be manipulated through lack if we are sovereign within, if we've dissolved the emotions and the beliefs that make us sacrifice, that make us believe we have to sacrifice, or that make us believe we have to perform a certain way in order to be worthy. So it's the emotional component to this is huge. And what you just said, it made me think of the image of when we're free and sovereign, it's that toroidal field
Yeah.
where your energy is completely self-sustaining and you're not being pulled and manipulated by each other's subconscious fears.
Well, and I mean, just to bring it back to just a very human example, but one thing that I realized as I was dissolving all of my shadow contracts was, and this gets into our next one. Should we just give the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so our final one is shadow contracts keep you in lack and anxiety because they keep you from truly communing with others.
True communion.
True communion.
Yeah.
And I was sharing with Amanda just that it wasn't until I realized I didn't need anything outside myself to live in abundance other than just myself. So I came totally back to self. But until I didn't need others, could never realize that I actually wanted communion. I
Exactly.
wanted to explore with others. I wanted that type of intimacy and collaboration and co-creation and magic and friendship and love and support and witness that communion offers us. But I think sometimes we think we have to have others in order to feel that. And so the process for me was realizing that I don't actually need anyone to have true communion with my soul, my God self, my divinity, all that is love. And then once I realized that I didn't need any of it, then I realized I actually just wanted it. And that's when I think you can start to get really on those beautiful, for those of you who know about urge, those urging desires, the desires that are kind of your, I would say like your soul purpose or mission. They're leading you towards the highest beauty that you can offer to the world. And communion is of course required in doing that. We need each other. We don't need each other, but we will choose in a heaven on earth matrix to work with one another.
Yeah, because we are relational to our core. And I think that you could sum up all of this by saying that how we relate to the world, whether we're relating in lack or abundance, is going to determine whether it feels like we're enslaved or we're free, whether we're sovereign or whether we're in a codependent relationship with life. And so, I don't know, I want to like just list them all again out loud so you guys hear. And then if we want to dive into anything else, we can. But like I said at the beginning, Emily and I are putting on a shadow contract workshop, which is a 2-day workshop. It's going to be December 5th and 6th.
Okay, and I want to say that Amanda gave me this sovereignty code through our friendship and we were colleagues really at first. But I feel like the code she gave me is easily worth like thousands of dollars. Like setting myself free, the value I would place on that. I feel lucky to be able to do this workshop with her and kind of add what I've learned to the material. But it really is so valuable. I'll be the testimonial.
Yeah.
It like Amanda changed my life for real with this work. It's powerful stuff to identify your shadow contracts and to dissolve them and to do it in a healthy way that doesn't create more chaos and destruction in your path. Because sometimes you can cut shadow contracts, but you end up leaving a wake of sadness in the way. And so that's the thing that also is really different that we're going to be teaching is like, how do you do this in a way that really is the easiest, flowiest way possible?
Yeah, and I've had the most questions about shadow contracts, and also working with clients personally, one-on-one, I feel like when people dissolve their shadow contracts, they have the biggest catapult. If you want to talk about anomaly, if you want to quickly shift your reality and step into abundance, the quickest way is to dissolve your shadow contracts. And so it takes inner work. It takes going within. And but it actually, honestly, I feel like once you get what shadow contracts are and how they work, it is, and even especially the emotional component in your body where it sits, it's so easy to identify from that point on.
And to not relink, because it's not like shadows are going to go away for the current foreseeable future. So what it does is it empowers you to be ultra conscious. And so as you're navigating through your relationships and even coming back into communion, you can be very real about, there was a little shadow there created today, but let me just dissolve that right now
Yep.
consciously, and then we move on our path. So it
Right.
really helps you move forward too.
Yeah, it does. I want to see really quick what people have said. Is that okay? A few people were
Yeah.
saying something.
There's some great.
Yeah, you guys are, a lot of you are, hopefully my finger's not in your face as I'm scrolling through this. How do you, how you love self should match others. Yes. How do you approach self, oh, hold on. How do you approach sales and marketing in the abundance matrix? Oh, that's kind of a whole different. Well, I will say you can have a shadow contract with your audience. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, when they step into this work, especially if you're working for yourself, if you have a dissolved shadow contract, you'll create a shadow contract with your audience. You'll create a shadow contract with social media, with online marketing. Same thing. How do I do it right? So that how do I hit all the boxes so I can win?
Yeah, and so I have a book club that's also a creativity coaching, group coaching program called the Poem Club. But just the other day, I realized I had a shadow contract with my group.
Interesting.
I wanted to take the month of December off. I wanted to really, I do 2 calls a week. I wanted to downscale for the holidays and be able to relax and enjoy myself a little more. I also felt like the group in general needed a little rest or break. And I ultimately ended up deciding that I would make the decision as the leader just to downscale.
Mm-hmm.
But something I could have never done that with if I didn't have sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was in lack and thinking, oh no, this is going to impact my cells or
Yep. I think actually dissolving the whole concept of shadow contracts, aside from that friendship I talked about, right after that, that's when I started realizing where mine were with my audience and how often I make decisions, I would make decisions based on what I thought I should do because something outside of me said I should do it because that's the way it was done versus what my creative impulses were saying. And I would say I don't do marketing or advertising, so I'm not the best person to ask on how to do that. But I will say that I think money can come in every unexpected way imaginable when we're listening to our urge. I believe the quickest way to money is to line up to your purpose first and foremost, and then follow your urge, your creative impulses.
And the abundance matrix way of doing marketing for me would be simply sharing.
Yeah.
An invitation. I invite you into this gift, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with the invitation or the ask, because ask and you shall receive. So you do have to be willing to invite others into it, like we're doing right now.
Yeah, because I guess technically I do sales and marketing because I'm marketing myself right now. Every time I'm online, I market myself, but it's truly coming from my creative urge, and it's an invitation. I think that's a big difference, because one thing that never sat well with me with marketing was the lack matrix version of get it now or it's not going to be there, or you only have an hour left to get this deal. And I get why they work and the tactics work, but to me it's all that urgency, if you don't do it now you won't get it, and I knew that came from lack. So I don't know if that's a very good answer of your question, but let's see if I can pull any of the other ones up. For a long time I've had an intellectual understanding that real self-worth cannot be derived from external. Wait, that just went away. Oops. Hold on, guys. Sorry, my whole thing just went away. I did too.
Oh, shit.
I'm so sorry, whoever that was. I lost you, and now. Wow, you guys are commenting a lot. I'm so excited. Oh, right here. Derived from external sources, but it's a whole different thing to actually feel it inside. Yes, exactly. It seems like you guys are mostly commenting more than questions, but I just wanted to see.
Should we?
Can we go in after and answer questions too on YouTube?
Yeah, I think we
so.
can.
Yeah.
Unless they delete from the live feed. I don't know.
Either way, I'll go back to I'll read through them when we get off the live. We'll make sure we answer any questions. Was there anything else we wanted to dive into?
You wanted to restate them.
Oh yeah, restate them. Yeah, because we just kind of went through them at different orders, but I just want to say them all together so you guys get it. So number one way, well, these aren't necessarily in a certain order, but the number one way that shadow contracts keep us in lack is it hides us from our true self, our true frequency, which is key because your frequency matches
I
your
have a
abundance grid.
comment on this. Sorry, Amanda.
No, go ahead.
It just popped into my head. So I feel like I had discovered in my life that I had like a vibrational glass ceiling. Like
yeah.
this was as high as my vibration could be. This was as good as I could feel. This was as abundant as I could be. And then it was really hard to like break through that glass ceiling. Shadow contract dissolving allows you to break through the upper limits of your frequency and truly lift your vibration.
Yes,
That's another way
I'm
to
so
say
glad
that.
you brought that up. Yeah, that's actually what we were originally going to call this, but we realized it was a super long title. But yes, I think breaking through your glass ceiling of vibrational frequency is literally how you catapult into lack. So when we're in shadow contracts, that's what keeps us from accessing that frequency that takes us to the next level. Shadow contracts limits possibility and therefore limits our creativity, and it limits it because it tells us there's only like this or that instead of there's an infinite amount of options and solutions. So it also, the third one, makes solutions elusive. So we look outside of ourselves constantly for answers, and because it's only this or that, or we're serving the hierarchy or the reward punishment system, we don't actually get to the creative solutions that are inside of us, that our urge is like urging us to get to. And then number 4, it keeps us to keep trading time for money. So it keeps us in the trading time for money place, which doesn't give us the opportunity to access true wealth. And then finally, it keeps us out of communion. It keeps us from having true communion, which I think communion, we're going to be talking so much about communion. Like, I feel like it's it's part of the Gen Magic class, which we're retitling Spiral Tech, and that's coming later. And Emily is going to be joining in on that too. So, but anyway, I think that communion is key to heaven on earth. And we don't know how to commune because we've been in the reward punishment system, which keeps us from being authentic, which keeps us away from true communion, which keeps us more isolated and in lack. So it's kind of amazing how they all connect.
They totally connect.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to say?
There was one other thing, as Amanda and I were just talking about what a cool conversation would be. And I wrote down that the point at which you exit survival mode, so I already talked about this just a tiny bit, but that really is the door. So like if you were trying to look for the exit door out of the lack matrix, you would find the door that was titled survival mode, and that would be the door you would open and step through to get free. So you have to move from a state of surviving into a state of thriving. And for me and my teachings, what that really means to me is you have to move from a state of using your creative energy in your own artistic inner artist way. So the way you thrive is by using your creative life force to create a lived experience. It has to be embodied, an embodied experience that you want, rather than an embodied experience that's just being handed over to you because of the way society is set up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Another way of saying it would be like you'd quit walking the path of fate, and you'd start really walking the path of destiny.
Yeah.
And really living your true soul's destiny.
Yeah, I like it. So you guys, we weren't planning on being on super long or anything, but these were the main things we wanted to share with you and invite you to come into the Shadow Contracts Workshop if you feel like this is a place that you want to work and get free.
Should we talk a little more about the dates and what we're talking
about? Yeah. So the Shadow Contracts Workshop, like I said, is a 2-day workshop. It's going to be December 5th and 6th.
2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday, and the recording will be available. So
yeah, we'll record everything.
You don't have to be live necessarily.
Yeah, and it'll have, like we were making it today, we'll have slides and stuff, so it'll be interactive, and you'll be able to
You'll have a
work
workbook.
through it. Yeah, like have an actual workbook and use real life examples. We'll be talking about real life examples with us, and it's pretty extensive. We'll kind of overview what the abundance matrix is, what the lack matrix is, what shadow contracts are, what shadow dynamics are.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Just the different ones.
Yeah.
So we're going to help you. Essentially, you'll be looking at some of your own shadow contracts in your life as we go through the teaching of it. But one thing, we have a little section called Shadow Dynamics, and Amanda talks a lot about the empath narcissist dynamic. but we'll also be talking about the empath dynamic, the narcissist dynamic, and then the ultimate shadow contract you have with your own self.
Yeah, with your own creative energy, with how you view yourself and see yourself, how you internalize things, how you treat yourself. So it gets pretty extensive, and then
a dissolution guide. So we'll take you step by step on how to get out of shadow contracts, like I said, in a healthy, fun, easier way.
Yeah, and how to really even emotionally identify where the shadow contracts are in you and shifting the emotional energy inside of you, which is a big part of it.
And then we'll give you some scripts for how you can actually talk to people when you're in a shadow contract with them. So, these will just kind of be more fill in the blanks for your specific situation, but you'll just get a few scripts of how to communicate, because sometimes I find with my coaching clients, sometimes the hardest things are how to actually have this conversation with somebody that I love. And so me and Amanda have both gone through major shadow contract dissolution, and we can talk about, how to communicate with care and to always hold the win-win-win while you're communicating.
Yeah, so it doesn't leave that wake of pain like she was talking about. I think we've covered.
And then, the following weekend, we're going to hold just a 1-day workshop, and this would be an upsell, but this live coaching.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. Yeah.
Do we want to still do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So the next weekend, so you can go through the shadow contracts workshop, and then if you want to be coached and have live coaching, I think we decided 20 people or 22 people?
I think something like that.
Yeah. We'll have limited number of slots, but each person will get some live coaching for about 10 minutes. And maybe it was less. Was it only 11 people?
Maybe we did 11 people, yeah.
There's limited
Either way,
spots.
we'll do limited spots to make sure we have a good quality time with you if you feel like you want to work with us live on working through shadow contracts. But that's separate from the workshop. So I think it's going to be amazing. Like I said, this is one of my most requested things. As soon as Emily got the concept of shadow contract, she called me and was like, you have to do a workshop on this. Like, this is life-changing. And she's the one who's been telling me forever. So talking to her and hearing her experience, I was like, you have to teach it with me, because she just brought it to a whole new level. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. And we don't actually have a sales page up for it yet, because we're creating it today. But you can, amandaflaker.com is my website, so it will be on there within the next day or two. I'll make sure it's up. And you can also email me, amanda@amandaflaker.com, if you want me to make sure I send you the link so that you can be in on it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. Hello, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad Emily's on my channel for the first time. I highly recommend checking out her TED Talk. So I would do it right now if you really want to be inspired for the day. What's it called again? Say it one more time, the title.
It's Living from the Soul, Poetry's Path to Your Fullest Life, or your most meaningful life, something like that.
Yeah.
TED actually titles your talks for you, so you don't pick the title.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, that is interesting. So Emily Motzkus.
EmilymOTZ KUS. And you can also just visit emilymotzkus.com, and you'd find a link there, an easy link, or you could learn more about me there too.
Cool. Awesome, you guys. I will go through and read your comments. Sorry we didn't read them all live, but I definitely want to check out what you guys had to say. So thanks for jumping on live. Also, I just want to say this. YouTube is consistently, I don't know what's going on, but I keep getting people telling me they're unsubscribed from my channel and that they're no longer seeing me in their notification feed. So every once in a while the algorithms change and it can knock people off, but I'm noticing a consistent knockoff. So if you want to make sure you get information of when I'm live, hit the notification bell, and I think that's it. Just make sure you're subscribed. And I also have an email list if you go to my website, amandaflaker.com, so that you get an email when I post a video and stuff like that. So just wanted to let you know, because I keep having people tell me they can't find me or they keep getting unsubscribed. So, all right, you guys, much love. We'll see you later. I don't know how to stop this. There we go. My finger's in front of everyone.